This is Monkey World in Dorset, the largest ape and monkey rescue centre on the planet. Today's programme is a Monkey Life special. In Vietnam, Monkey World is embarking on an exciting new project, their first foreign sanctuary for endangered primates, a new Gibbon rescue centre, protecting these rare animals for the future.
Monkey World as a rescue centre, it's taken 20 years to build up. We're trying to put a rescue centre here in just a few months.
We trek through dense jungle in a search for golden-cheeked gibbons in the wild.
Ow, it's the gibbons.
But will the team catch more than just a glimpse of these elusive creatures? And at Monkey World, Peanut and her family experience life in the treetops for the very first time in their new home. In the past 20 years, Monkey World has rescued and rehabilitated 185 apes and monkeys from all corners of the globe. But their latest project means that many rescued primates can remain in their native country. "6,000 miles away in Vietnam, the Monkey World team is breaking ground on their biggest international project to date, a rescue centre for golden-cheeked gibbons. Vietnam is home to some of the rarest wildlife in the world. Poverty in rural communities has led to endangered wildlife being the target of the illegal poaching and smuggling trades. Without help, golden-cheeked gibbons could face extinction.
We knew that there was a big demand and trade in them illegally on the black market, and yet nobody knew anything about them in the wild, except for most conservationists were saying, actually, there are other species that are more critical. Well, it was a very sort of grand statement to make when you don't actually know anything about the golden-cheeked gibbon. So I guess at that point in time, which was about 4 or 5 years ago, we decided, well, perhaps this is something that actually we could do, that Monkey World Ping Tung Rescue Center and the Vietnamese government could grab hold of and actually do something significant for an endangered species before it faces extinction.
5 years in the planning, the new sanctuary will be run by Monkey World and Taiwan's Ping Tung Rescue Center. Joining forces with the Vietnamese, the three nations will build the first official rescue center of its kind in this country.
So I'm very pleased to be here today to break ground for this rescue center, but really this is only a small part of the overall project, where we are trying to aim to create the highest level of scientific work for conservation, for welfare, and to get the gibbons back out into the forest. So thank you very much, and all the best for a successful future. Thank you.
The centre will be built in Vietnam's largest and most diverse conservation zone, Tien National Park. Covering almost 80,000 hectares, Tien has been called the Amazon of Asia. At the entrance to the park is Tien Island, which will house the rescue centre.
Much bigger area than we had ever dreamed of or even considered, and that's how the whole process got started. We came across to the island and did an initial survey and scout through, and it was perfect. There are primary trees growing here. It's mostly secondary forest, but it's just beautiful. It's an island, it's isolated, yet it's right alongside of the national park, so very easy to bring utilities and labor in to look after a rescue center. And with careful design and management, it wouldn't have to have a big impact upon the island. And it was all agreed. Everybody was unanimous, including the government. Everybody was very happy for an endangered primate rescue center to be set up on Tien Island at Cat Tien National Park.
Monkey World's operations director, Jez Hermer, has joined Alison in Vietnam, and they're surveying the site.
Just simply amazing. In 24 hours, our road has been cleared effectively, and it's all been done by hand. So they've just thrown manpower at this and done the deed, which is really nice to see. Actually, is looking around, they've left quite a few of the big trees that might have sort of encroached upon what is going to be our central road. So they are being quite sensitive to what's out here and not just mowing everything down. And now we can get a better look heading into the middle of the island and where the primate center is going to be.
The rescue centre will be home to 20 gibbons at a time. They'll be rehabilitated and, where possible, returned to the wild, making way for more gibbons that need help. It'll be a continuous process.
We've got to start recruiting staff, training staff, we've got to start getting equipment in and just preparing the whole thing ready for the first animals to move in here sometime next year. If you think about Monkey World as a rescue centre, it's taken 20 years to build up. We're trying to put a rescue centre here in just a few months. There's a whole raft of stuff that's got to be organised, and so it's going to take quite a bit of focus from us back in the UK to make sure this is on track.
Later at Monkey World, one gibbon family gets to experience life as it should be, high up in the treetops. It's 4 a.m. in Vietnam. The team are heading deep into the jungle. They're hoping to catch a glimpse of golden-cheeked gibbons in their natural habitat. Monitoring the wild population of the gibbons will help everyone understand more about the needs of the rescued primates when they're brought to the new centre, and when they're re-released back into the wild. But in order to find the gibbons, they need to hear them call. It's a waiting game.
They normally call an hour after dawn, so we've still got some time. But the thing is, you know that they're really close, you know they're within 500 metres of you. But without that trigger of a call, and they're so silent otherwise.
Monkey World keeper Marina has been studying Tien's wild golden-cheeked gibbons for the last 4 years. The group she's hoping to show Alison is known as How Family.
It's been about an hour since sunup. We haven't heard them. We heard a neighbouring group, but not this group. So I think we're going to head back towards the centre and we'll take it slowly and see if we can eventually catch up with How Family.
Very little is known about the golden-cheeked gibbons, as they're incredibly difficult to follow through the dense jungle they occupy. Poaching has also made them extremely shy of people.
The seasons make a huge difference here, and it's coming into dry season now, so every step is a crunch and a crack and a break of a branch or leaf litter. And there's just it's really difficult to move quietly through the forest right now.
At last, the team hear familiar calls.
They called for 12 minutes, which is their average time, which wasn't enough to get to them. But they're probably within 150 metres of here. Hopefully at a fruit tree. So just waiting for some kind of sign to find out exactly where they are.
Marina has been living in Vietnam for the last 2.5 years. She's endured the jungle for up to 2 weeks at a time, and her findings are going to be crucial for the new rescue centre. Alison wants to ensure the environment and conditions they build at the centre are perfect for the rehabilitation of the rescued gibbons.
Marina's just done an absolutely fantastic job for 2 years studying the ecology and biology of the golden-cheeked gibbons. Most people say, well, what does that really mean? The ecology means how does the animal impact and interact with its environment. So that basically covers everything about your life history. Marina's work in Tien National Park has been unparalleled. It will be probably the definitive work on golden-cheeked gibbons in the wild. Indeed, many people have failed where Marina has succeeded.
Mr. Bing is a forest ranger and tracker. He's been working with Marina since she arrived in Vietnam. Unfortunately, the gibbons are not Marina's study group.
I'm gutted.
Marina may be disappointed she didn't get to see her gibbons, but catching a glimpse of these shy creatures is fantastic for the team.
It is really difficult. It's secondary forest, which means there's a lot of low-level shrubbery, so you can't go easily. Like in primary forest, the ground's all clear and you can just fly. And other gibbon species, some of them call for 40 minutes, for an hour and a half, and they call 2-3 times per day. But golden cheek gibbons here call within the hour after dawn, sometimes just like 4 minutes, on average 12, and if there's a young male in the group, that's when it can go longer, up to 40 minutes. And it's just once per day, that's it. The only other time you'll hear a peep out of them if there's a boundary battle or something, they're scared, and that's just females alarm calling. So they don't give you much chance to find them.
Coming up, the team discover snares and traps.
This is less than 72 hours, definitely.
It's a chilling reminder that illegal poaching still exists in the national park. And, even worse, they see the full extent of the damage a snare can cause. In Vietnam, the Monkey World team are back in the forest of Tien National Park. Marina wants to find Howe family, one of her golden-cheeked gibbon study groups. Before Marina's 4-year-long research into Tien's golden-cheeked gibbons, very little was known about them. But in order to stand the best chance of releasing them back to the wild, it's vital to know as much as possible. The team aren't having much luck. Spotting the reticent gibbons in this large forest is proving extremely difficult. But they do spot another rare primate.
Which are really sort of quite big-bodied monkeys, and they've actually got a chambered stomach. They're very unique. They're ruminant digesters, so all they eat really are leaves, and then they sit like a cow in the tree and digest. So it's actually a really good opportunity to try and see the dukes because they're pretty calm, and they'll just sit there digesting their breakfast and burping a lot and looking back at us.
Duke langurs are classified as critically endangered. They too fall victim to the illegal wildlife and smuggling trades, so the new rescue centre will also offer sanctuary to them. The Vietnamese government and forest rangers known as the Kim Lam work hard to preserve its wildlife. But despite international treaties and domestic laws, the trade continues. Further into their trek, the team finds snares and traps that have been laid just hours ago.
This is less than 72 hours, definitely. Look at that.
Look, this is...
As fresh as anything.
It's brand new.
This is totally illegal. There's Mr. Bing and his Kim Lam, his rangers, patrol the forest, trying to keep the people out. But it's quite a small area. There's a lot of poor people surrounding Tien, and they just keep coming in.
They have found laid branches and leaves. This is the snare line. The animal is forced to find an opening, which leads straight to the trap.
So if you were an animal and you came along here, that's what's going to happen to you. And it cuts in, and you turn your leg off.
But what generally happens is it doesn't kill them. So it'll just leave them to sit there for days, weeks on end sometimes, just dying a slow lingering death, which is a great shame.
When I was here 2 years ago, I never saw any snare lions because this is very close to the headquarters. It's right next to the headquarters of the Kim Lam. Yeah, it's just saying lots of people are liking it at the moment and more are coming in. And this was the best protected area within the park, so hunters are here, it means the other areas maybe are getting worse.
The national park is now having to employ more forest rangers to keep the poachers out.
Now, people have been hunting like this around here for years and years, but, you know, the forest is getting smaller, the concentration of hunting is getting much tighter, the effect upon the natural environment is getting much more severe, and it's an issue of education, essentially. The local hunters don't necessarily need to come in here anymore and hunt these small mammals. It's not essential for their survival, but they do come in as part of their cultural heritage, and until somebody can get the educational points across that actually this is damaging the forest irreparably, you know, this is never going to stop.
Sadly, in just one day, the team find many different traps that they need to dismantle. And later, they come face to face with the reality of what happens to an animal that's been caught by a snare. It's a Duke Langer, one of the rarest primates in the world.
And, you know, you see these little signs all over his body of what his previous life was. And now that's tragically over.
Over the last 7 years, Monkey World has rehabilitated 8 golden-cheeked gibbons at the park in England. It was the only suitable place for them to go. One family, Pung-yo, Peanut, and their young son Tien, are about to experience something new. Attempting to make life as natural as possible for their resident gibbons, the team has created a new 2-acre enclosure, including a large wooded area. This will enable the gibbons to behave as they would in the wild. Dad Pung-yo is first on the scene. But Mum Peanut has her youngster to think of, so she's more cautious. But not for long. The lure of the forest is just too tempting. It's a great moment for the primate care staff.
It's the most wonderful thing to see these gibbons in the trees. They've been stolen from the wild as infants, taken into the illegal pet trade, and they're using their trees like they've never been away. Just really goes to show that the natural instinct is there. They know how to handle those trees. It's so often said that you can't put these animals back into a natural environment because they won't know how to do it. Peanut and Pung-yo know exactly what trees are for. They know how to use them. They're there. They're using a forest.
Tien is now 11 months old and a confident young gibbon. This is his first tree climbing experience and he clearly loves it. Gibbons move at great speeds and can jump around 40 feet. In the wild, they spend their lives living high in the tree canopy, and it seems that's just what this family are going to do. Peanut and Pung-yo were stolen from the forests of Vietnam. Their son, Tien, is actually named after Tien Island, and one day it's hoped they can return to where they belong. Back in Vietnam, in Cat Tien's headquarters, Alison and Marina are about to see firsthand the damage a snare can cause to an animal. This is a black-shanked Duke Langer, one of the most endangered primates in the world. He's lost his leg and would have endured a slow and painful death. Just a few hours ago, the team were lucky enough to see a wild troop on their trek through the jungle.
You try not to get too emotional about these things and just deal with the practicalities. But when you start looking at him, it's just really difficult because you see signs of his previous life. He's got a cut on his face and a torn ear. He's sort of coming up to adulthood, coming to be a mature male. He was probably challenging the adult male in the group to become the dominant male. And, you know, you see these little signs all over his body of what his previous life was. And now that's tragically over.
Marina is taking hair samples and the vet is gathering information. Hopefully they can learn something about this species from this incredibly sad situation. Cat Tien is the most protected national park in Vietnam, and law enforcement is taken very seriously. At the ranger station, the poachers of the Duc Langer have been caught and are in handcuffs. They will certainly receive a prison sentence for this crime.
Once word gets out that the authorities are going to seize the animals and prosecute the smugglers, the trade will stop because nobody will want to spend the money on trying to steal langurs or gibbons from the wild, especially if they know they're going to get thrown in jail for it.
Next time. In Vietnam, the team find gibbons living as pets, but will they be able to come to the new rescue centre?
Would he be happy to consider her future if she were able to go back to the forest in the next couple of years, if that were possible? Would he consider that for her?
At Monkey World, young orangutan Kai discovers when it comes to food, being cute means nothing. And in Paddy's chimp group, Susie gives birth to her second baby.
She's looking after the baby, she's holding the baby. We've actually seen it suckle now, so things are looking very positive for everything to go well.